Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and I'm going on a long journey of trying to complete every single Game Boy Advance game in North America. This is the story of the highs, the lows, and all the silly stuff in between for the Game Boy Advance completion experience. This is GB Ace. Game number 39, Strawberry Shortcake Summertime Adventure. Yeah, well, when I said I would be playing every Game Boy Advance game, I suppose getting a game like this would be expected at some point, huh? Strawberry Shortcake Summertime Adventure was released in November of 2004 on the Game Boy Advance exclusively, developed by Guerrilla Systems and published by Majesco. Strawberry Shortcake, aside from being a named dessert item you'd probably see in a restaurant menu, is also the name of a cartoon character that first appeared on greeting cards back in the 1970s, published by America's Greetings, with the character herself being originally created by Barbie Sargent. Over the years, the character evolved, albeit slightly, to be featured in a number of different media and merchandise, from dolls and posters to animated television specials and films. I wouldn't say she gets the same amount of attention that Barbie gets, obviously, but still, I at least recognized the name when I saw it, even though I think I predicted I was getting a Fire Emblem game when this draw initially happened. Yeah, two names. Oh! 2 games with fire in the name. Oh, that could only mean one thing. We're in game number 3, and it's going to be Fire Emblem. Close enough. Close enough indeed. Okay, so I'm going to be real with you guys. This is probably going to be a very short video, because I don't really have much to say about this game. If you thought the Muppets game I did not too long ago was incredibly low in terms of content, I'd say this game had even less to boot, and it just did not stick out to me very much in any one major or significant way. What results from this experience is literally just an incredibly simple left-to-right platformer where you grab certain quantities of items, dodging enemies and obstacles because they will make you drop said items, but even if you do, you'll still likely have enough to progress, because I think the design mentality for this game was made with the interest of 5-year-olds in mind. And that's not really even an insult either. I think this game was legitimately made with younger kids in mind. I don't know the exact intended demographic offhand, mind you, but I literally think the max of what you need to play this game is a very basic reading comprehension level, and you should be good to go here. As far as the plot and story is concerned, there's apparently a big bake-off happening very soon in Strawberry Land, and Strawberry Shortcake, along with her friends, both new and old, Apple Dumplin', Orange Blossom, Angel Cake, Blueberry Muffin, Ginger Snap, Rainbow Sherbet, Huck, and of course Miss Shortcake's canine companion Pupcake, are all getting ready for the festivities. But of course, for a bake-off to be successful, you need baked goods first, so our job is to basically walk around the area, collect ingredients for certain characters, bring those items back to all the characters, and basically do that until everyone is satisfied, and essentially when your task list becomes empty, which is essentially the completion goal for this game. Each screen transition will either lead you to one of the characters' homes, where you can converse with them, learn what they need from you, or give you the items that are being asked for, or you'll be led to a short platforming stage, and I put emphasis on platforming here, because I wouldn't say you do anything too extravagant here. It's literally just collecting items and avoiding obstacles, and even then, like I mentioned before, there's not too much of a penalty for hitting obstacles either. You just drop some of your stock of items and that's pretty much it. In addition to the smaller ingredient collectibles, you can also find giant strawberries in these stages too, which at first I thought were some bonus collectibles where you could try and collect all of them for a 100% completion rating, but that was me clearly giving this game way too much credit. They're really just additional items that you can use for the gardening mode, which I'll talk about a bit later. The first couple of these stages are pretty simple and straightforward. You collect apples in an apple orchard, collect marshmallow fluffs as you head downstream a chocolate river. There's this path of gumdrop trees where some of the smaller ones can fling you into the air. A path with brambles, where if you wait around for a bit, bubbles will spawn and you can ride them up to the top of the screen to grab chocolate chunks or something. It just seems like a lot of variety, but it's really not. Just very small gameplay additions that don't really add up to much in the grand scheme of things, especially since the collection aspect is pretty minimal to begin with. See, every time you clear a screen, which is usually done by exiting to the rightmost screen transition, if you go backwards or left on the next screen, you will actually go back to the previous screen again, but at the very beginning of that screen or level in question. And all the collectibles will basically just respawn again, allowing you to collect more in the process. So even if for some reason you don't get enough, it's just a matter of going back through the level again and getting what you don't have, which is highly unlikely anyway. Do be careful of that going left mechanic though, as if you keep holding left when you arrive on that next screen, you might accidentally go backwards out of that screen too, forcing you to make even more backwards progress. Although, I did find out later that there was a map screen select, which makes a lot of travel highly irrelevant anyway, at least revisiting areas for the most part. The game does change up its platforming action a little bit though once you make it to Huck and Rainbow Sherbets, as the next level will have you ascending upwards in a hot air balloon to grab more items, then jumping on clouds to grab more items, to riding a skateboard down a mountain to grab more items, just for you to ultimately end up right back at the beginning again in perhaps one of the most random endings to a world wrap I've ever seen, which then you can follow up by grabbing even more items. Also, for as much as I dislike Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, I would play that easily over this skateboard stage. I mean, at least things were laid out strategically in that game. This is just collectible spam and jumping around for like 2 minutes, nothing really that exciting at all. So yeah, once you've gone around the world and collected everything, it's now just a matter of going back to all your friends, getting the items they promised to give you after you deliver on their request, and then start trying to wrap up the game from there, which finally gets us into the gardening mode of this game. And if I had to say anything about this mode, oh boy, they needed way more elaboration here. Yeah, maybe the game's instruction manual will explain more, but due to the nature of how I'm playing these games, that wasn't really an option for me. So I was at a complete loss of what to do here at first, so much that I actually looked up what I had to do. Yeah, I know, I had to consult a guide for a strawberry shortcake game, which I could see the argument of that saying more about me than the game itself, but come on, it literally just threw me into a screen that was so much different from anything else. A bunch of random selectable pictures, and 2 untitled meters on the right. I really don't think labeling a few extra things here would have hurt anything. Seriously. So here's how this works. Throughout the game, you can find 4 different types of seeds for strawberries, blueberries, and 2 other random consumable produce plants that I don't remember what they were, but it doesn't really matter since they aren't required to beat the game anyway. Once you select the seed, you can start growing your plant. The default options you have are watering your plant, giving the plant food, giving it weed wither, and of course, actually harvesting it. The idea here is you need to apply the first 3 things over and over again until the 2 meters I mentioned earlier are completely maxed out, or until your time runs out for that particular plant, symbolized by the ever-decreasing meter on the far side of the screen. If you manage to harvest the crop when both meters are completely maxed, congratulations, you have harvested a perfect 10 out of 10 crop. One that's in very good condition and can be used to maximize its baking potential. If both meters aren't maxed, you'll get a fruit of a lower score that has a similar yield. Now, you may notice a bunch of other pictures on the top as well, and these are actually items you can get from collecting the big strawberries in the platforming stages. There are additional enhancers that can be used to manipulate the growth of your produce if things get a little out of order, or if maybe one of the meters is advancing too fast or not fast enough. You can use these items to get things to happen at a more reasonable pace, if that makes sense. I'll say it right now though, if you just want to complete this game, I would not even bother with these extra tools, and just focus on the default ones. Besides, it's not like the game really tells you what they do anyway. In the context of the story, you pretty much need to harvest around 50 strawberries, plus or minus a few more since I think there is another tax that requires them as well. in addition to harvesting a blueberry with a score of at least 8 out of 10. Getting the strawberries isn't too hard, as they are the easiest plant to get a perfect with, and a perfect 10 will get you 50 strawberry yields as it is, which takes care of that task relatively easily, so just aim for perfection on that and you should be good to go. And really, all you have to do is just keep applying the same 3 tools during the gardening process over and over again until the meters are maxed, like I said before. It's really that simple. The blueberry is a little more difficult, but that's just because it does not have the same growth cycle as a strawberry, so the meters won't increase at the same rate. In fact, one of them will increase so fast that it will start to decrease if you wait too long or apply too much of one of the enhancers. I never really figured out the magic touch for this one, but since you don't need a perfect score for this challenge anyway, I didn't really even bother with it and learning what the strategy was, but I imagine you just use trial and error until you ultimately figure it out. The other 2 seeds, one of which I never found for some reason, I think require the additional enhancements to be grown to perfection. I tried growing one of them just for experiment's sake, but it didn't really work for whatever reason, so I just decided it wasn't worth it and stopped there to complete my tasks. But yeah, sorry for the half-assed explanation here if that's what it feels like, but hey, if the game's gonna give me nothing to work with, I'm not gonna give them any leeway to work with myself. You kinda reap what you sow with that, I guess you could say. So after finishing my tasks and looking at my task list, it says I no longer have anything to do. So, is that a game complete? Well, pretty much. The game doesn't give you any credit sequence here, and there's nothing really more to do in a completion sense, so I kinda just stopped playing. Admittedly, this was a false GG, though, as I quickly learned that there was actually an ending scene with all the characters at the bake-off, so I reloaded my game and showed that off for completion's sake, but still, there weren't any credits, so I feel like either way, that's GG regardless of how unsatisfying that bonus sequence felt like to me. So, game complete. Yeah, this wasn't good. And like, I see what they were trying to go for here, but it just didn't really connect for me. And given I'm probably 3 decades over the target audience, I get that, but I look at a game like Barnyard, or even the Berenstain Bears game I played like a dozen or so games ago, and while I'd say those are still probably designed for an even higher age level than this game was, I'd say they are at least within 5 years the demographics, and those games I think offered so much more from not just a gameplay perspective, but also in a fundamental learning and problem-solving perspective as well. Plus, the game just does not do a good job of explaining anything, and even if that was the manual's job, let's be real, this game likely found its way into many bargain bins without the manual anyway, so kind of a fool's errand on the devs to only depend on that for their exposition. Also, I feel like the game is kinda broken as well. It uses a password system to reload your file whenever you have to leave and turn your game off, and when I reloaded my file to actually see the ending, I didn't have all my seeds in my stock anymore, and I had to redo one of the task list items to even get the cutscene again properly. Thankfully, it just involved growing a quick perfect strawberry again, but still, kind of weird that my password just didn't keep all of my exact save data. Which, isn't that kind of the point of save data? It's also just very easy to skip dialogue and text too, which was another reason why I didn't go over every single detail of progression for this game. But after a while, it just felt like collecting random items anyway, and turning them into random NPCs until I was done. So, not a very substantial game, even if you try to look past the bugs and inefficiencies. Getting to the scoring, I think it's very obvious that this game is getting a 1 from me, for both overall quality and personal enjoyment. I considered a 1.5 for the latter just because it was at least a quick clear, but the gardening really killed it for me. And truly, what did we really gain from playing this anyway? Aside from the fact that I can increase the completion totals now. That's really about it though, so yeah, 1 out of 5 for both. For difficulty, I gave it a 1.5 out of 5 just because of the gardening. It was very poorly explained, but since you don't have to do too much with it anyway, I could see someone still stumbling into the correct solution or idea regardless, even with the crypticness, so I didn't feel like a 2 was completely necessary there. So yeah, that was my summertime adventure with Strawberry Shortcake. Let's hope this didn't completely kill any and all motivation for this character, because there is still one other game we have to play involving her. However, that's future me's problem, so we'll see what that is like whenever we draw Strawberry Shortcake Sweet Dreams. For now, though, let's take a look at what the next game is going to be for this challenge, and hope that it's much better than this game was. Okay guys, thank you for watching this summary. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave a comment and or like on the video, as those will really help me in these videos out. And stay tuned for future summaries of this series. If you also want to watch full playthroughs of these games for this challenge, check out the video description for a full playlist of everything that's been uploaded and exported so far. And if you're curious about what I'm playing right now for the challenge, be sure to stop by my Twitch channel to see what my current progress is. Just be warned, I'll be a lot further ahead of where we are for these summaries, so keep that in mind. This has been SlimKirby in the GBA series, and I'll talk to you fine people next time. Later, folks.